Hello, and welcome back to an episode of the From Cameras to Couches podcast. I am the host, Zach Davis.
And I'm Emmy Davis.
And this is our second take of this, so if you're wondering why Emily is laughing, I made a comment as to the state of her health that I will not be retaining. Hope you guys are all doing fantastic. We've been a little behind schedule, under the weather, been getting hit by things left and right here, so we're sorry for the absence, but we are back. We are trying to punch it
better
into full
than
force.
ever.
Better than anybody could ask for. We're moving into 2025. I mean, the year's at its close. We've got so much that we've done this year, so much that we've decided to tackle, stuff like this podcast, stuff that we're really excited about for the future, and we're just hoping that this year wrapped up on as good a note as next year is going to start off on, and it seems like it's going to be there. So, all of that to say, we've got some things to talk about for this weekend's roundup. So
let's get into it.
Let's start talking. Let's talk about some news. The first big news article. If you live in today's society, if you have a cell phone, you probably know this already. But about 30 minutes after we finished recording our last weekend roundup, the news came out that Christopher Nolan's movie is going to be an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. That's pretty exciting. That's exciting for a lot of different reasons. Number one, we've been talking about the cast for the past several weeks and the slow but sure additions to it, and that kind of avalanched into like one of the best casts of the past several movies that anybody has done. When any of these like great director casts, this is one of them. I mean, we're talking Tom Holland, Zendaya, Charlize Theron, Anne Hathaway, Matt Damon. There's gonna be so many people that are part of this. So we've been kind of speculating as to who's gonna play what in this movie, and it's kind of weird. Like, is Anne Hathaway gonna be Penelope, the wife of Odysseus?
I hope so.
Is Matt Damon playing old Odysseus and Tom Holland playing young Odysseus? Like, how's this gonna work? Because this, for those of you who don't know Homer's The Odyssey,
Zendaya as Calypso.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Is that her name?
You know what? They have to cast John Goodman as the Cyclops.
It's not Calypso.
Do you hear what they have to cast John Goodman. That'd be the biggest power move of all time.
John C. Reilly.
No, not John C. Reilly. Not John C. Reilly.
What's that? It's bugging me. Her name's not Calypso, is it? I don't know.
I think it is Calypso.
It's something like that.
I'm pretty positive it's Calypso.
Okay, good.
You're on the money. Calypso is the tea lemonade. I don't know what I'm talking about. Moving on. Awesome. This is a very interesting move from director Christopher Nolan. I was joking with my family over the holiday that this could be like the most braggadocious move of all time. Hey, I just won Best Picture and now I'm adapting Homer's The Odyssey. Interesting call. But if he's able to pull it off, I'll be all the way there for it, and it'll probably be as highly touted as his last film is. So we've got that to look forward to. That's on the horizon for probably 2027. Next up, Happy Gilmore 2 just got announced. This was announced during the Netflix coverage of the NFL games for Christmas Day. Yeehaw. It looks like most of the cast that is still alive is returning. Could be fun. Could be another Netflix movie. It's an interesting move for Sandler, who has been making some very interesting moves over the past several years. I mean, he had his big pivot to drama with Uncut Gems. Well, I mean, aside from Punch Drunk Love and some of his other work, but Uncut Gems.
You still haven't seen Punch Drunk Love.
I have seen Punch Drunk Love. I just watched it last month.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working on getting a physical copy of it.
I must have missed your Letterboxd review.
I miss a lot of Letterboxd reviews nowadays. Oh. Did you read my one on Return of the King yesterday?
No, but I also just punched the microphone.
Nice.
Sorry
for the scrap, everybody. Okay, so it's gonna be an interesting move with this Happy Gilmore 2. It's a
hopefully it's like actually funny and just not a bummer.
I don't know. We'll see. I won't say that I have full confidence in Adam Sandler nowadays, but I know that he's made some interesting choices, and hopefully this will continue to pay off. Another interesting tidbit here. There's a new Mummy movie in development, supposedly starring Brendan Fraser, after the massive failure of the launch of DC's Warner Brothers' Universe of Darkness. that was the Tom Cruise The Mummy that came out back in 2015.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That was supposed to launch an entire universe of monsters, and it flopped so hard that they refused to make any more.
Well, good.
It's pretty good overall. Anyway, this is the first The Mummy movie since then, and the first like true Mummy sequel since, whenever The Mummy 3, I guess, came out. I don't remember if there is Mummy 3 or not, but I would assume so. Anyway, that's on the horizon. Let's hope Mr. Brendan Fraser pulls back up.
Something I wanted to say, the Batman movie got delayed.
Yeah, it did. To 2027.
Yeah. I'm bummed.
It was coming. I really feel like it was coming.
know.
And Matt Reeves has continuously said that they don't have the story finished for this. For the past couple of months, he's like, it'll lock in when it's locked in, but it is not there right now. And
at least we have Mickey 17 to hold us over on the RPAT front.
we got the Bong Joon coming out.
I just love Robert Pattinson.
Yeah,
I'm
very much looking forward to
I was talking about this
17.
the other day. I love how he just like rebranded himself, like completely took over
something that
his reputation
that Taylor Lautner was not able to do.
Yeah.
He was
Fun
able
fact,
to just
I don't know if you
erase
know this
himself
about Taylor Lautner. He married a girl named Taylor, so now they're just both Taylor Lautner.
Tay squared.
Tay squared.
Tay up in this. I'm sorry, everybody.
Anyways.
Okay, so yeah. I am bummed about the Batman. I really, really, really love the first one. I showed this to Danny a couple of weeks ago, and he like blew a gasket over it. He thought it was insane. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Batman Part 2 whenever it comes out. The Penguin was awesome earlier this year. And I'm really
Penguin's so good.
I'm really hotly in anticipation of more stuff from that universe because it seems to be the only superhero thing that's working right now, and there's two interconnected universe things with it. So with James Gunn's Superman on the horizon, which is the next item I want to talk about. The teaser for this came out earlier this week, and it has been a fairly mixed bag on reception. There are a lot of people I'm hearing are excited for it. There are a lot of them that are kind of damning it. I don't know. I'd give this one breathing room. It might be able to flex its muscles. I am so tired of superhero stories by now. It's not even funny. So I'm going to have to get over that to go check this movie out. But if it manages to rebrand itself and be, something worth visiting, then good on it. I mean, the Batman very much is, and that is a completely different telling of, a very, very classic story in comic literature. But I don't know. I don't know about James Gunn. I'm a little like here or there on James Gunn. What do you think of James Gunn? Do you like any James Gunn movies? I think he made the best Suicide Squad movie.
He did like Guardians, right?
Yeah, he did Guardians.
I like the Guardians movies.
Yeah, Guardians movies are pretty good.
Gaga songs.
I like some of the Guardians songs. What do they know about James Gunn?
Yeah. Did he do the third one?
I think so. I
don't think he did.
Maybe he didn't, because that was when the whole debacle was going on about him moving to DC instead of being a Marvel guy. Let me find out.
I like the first one and the third one. I don't really care for the second one that much.
The second one's fine.
Yeah. But the first one...
James Gunn did direct the third Guardians.
He did? Well, good, because I like that one too.
Good.
I cried.
Rocket did too. Spoilers. Yeah, the Superman movie will be interesting. I'm curious to see how that's going to pan out. And hopefully, I'm not exactly on that team of like, oh yes, I pray that this wins, but I don't really know a whole lot of people who are at this
I just
point.
Want to see a good superhero movie.
I just want to see something worth my time, worth investing into. And hopefully that will be it. I don't know if this is going to incorporate like a James Gunn, Matt Reeves universe story. I don't know if that's going to like coalesce into a total DC story. I really hope it doesn't. Please just stop doing this. Just let the standalone things happen and it'll be okay. That gives, people more room to do separate styles and that kind of stuff.
But they can make so much money.
Yeah, until they don't. Until they start making, $500 million flops. But until that day, we'll find out what Mr. David Cornsweat will have to show as the new Clark Kent. Okay, the Peaky Blinders movie has finished filming. It means Killian's free to go play David Byrne of the Talking Heads, because he looks exactly like him, and that is my dream project, is Cillian Murphy playing David Byrne in the Talking Heads. But for now, he's going to continue his Peaky Blinders role as Thomas Shelby. I have not seen Peaky Blinders. I've tried watching it a couple of times. I've not really been able to get into it. I know it's a lot of people's thing.
Rachel and Riley
I'm not
love
dogging
it.
on it. I've never been able to sit all the way through it.
I've never even tried, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
It's one of those things that's like always sat on my Netflix list, but I've never like clicked on it.
I think I've made it through the first season, and I think I started the second season and kind of started tapering off, which is, I'm very, very, very bad about TV shows.
Yeah.
They're only like some of the best of prestige TV sticks with me, and I'll watch all the way through, but most stuff like this, I just have a hard time.
I'm just a movie guy.
After the hype train has like...
Give me a movie.
Nah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm so much more preferential to movies than I am to TV. But hopefully, the Peaky Blinders movie will be a nice wrap up for that story. I know that this is going to be the conclusive arc of the Peaky Blinders story, which, from what I understand, a lot of people said that the last season could have been, if need be, but they were trying to get the movie made for a long time, and they finally did. So good on them. I hope the Peaky Blinders movie is awesome. I will probably check it out. I don't know if I'll like watch a YouTube recap of the entire show up to that point, or if I'll just watch the show. I have more.
Maybe we should just sit down and watch it. Maybe this is our time.
But that's like a 50-hour commitment versus watching like a 3-hour.
Is it that long?
I'm pretty positive it's hour-long episodes, and I think there are 4 or 5 seasons. I don't know.
Oh my goodness!
It's like a Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, like some kind of prestige TV.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, it's quite long. Anyway, moving on.
Just a couple seasons.
We're out of news. There's plenty of other news out there, but I want to go ahead and get into the roundup. So we started this week's roundup off with the premiere of Nosferatu on Christmas Eve.
Seasons.
There's 6 seasons.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
They can't be 10 episodes a season. It has to be like 12, 15.
Check that. Keep yapping while I look it back up.
Let's talk about Nosferatu. This is Robert Eggers' most recent movie. Eggers is probably most famous for The Lighthouse and The Witch, but also did The Northman as his last project, which I thought was a really good time. Other corresponding sources have told me it's not as great, but I thought it's a really fun movie.
6 episodes.
6 episodes per season?
Season.
Sharp. Maybe that is a better watch than I thought.
Yeah, maybe we can knock it out. Okay, anyways, back to Nosferatu.
What was not a better watch than I thought was Nosferatu. So Robert Eggers is very good at these period piece, like very dark, bleak, gothic looking movies. This is made in the spirit of the original Nosferatu, the silent film from 1922, and Dracula has like one of the most storied histories in cinema, beginning with Nosferatu in 22, which was an adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel.
Yes.
And it kind of like started horror as we understand it on the screen. This movie is hugely influential and has continued to be throughout centuries at this point. And it's kind of coalesced into this Nosferatu moment where this big moment of Dracula being back in the spotlight, and not in the form of like Renfield or something that's come out in recent memory. It is very much like
that Nick Cage movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Nick Cage and I think Nick Holt.
That's funny.
Anyway, Nosferatu is really something. This movie
It's wild.
It kind of took me for an absolute spin. It's weird seeing this on Christmas Eve.
I didn't like it.
Very much not a Christmas Eve movie.
Like, I'd gone to mass earlier that night.
Yeah, I genuinely was just like, oh wow, this is just not at all a Christmas movie. But taking it aside from that,
icky.
Yeah, taking it aside from that, this movie accomplishes everything it's trying to do.
It is disturbing.
Thoroughly, like some of the best sound design I've heard this year. I would really like to see this go for best sound design at the Oscars this year. Because holy cow, this is just some brutal stuff. I mean, there's no like blood sucking vampires in this. There are blood slurping vampires in this.
It's terrible.
just going ham. Bill Skarsgård is doing the work as Count Orlok.
I was so completely overstimulated by the heavy breathing and the blood sucking and the close-ups of people's sweaty faces.
Been signed.
All
the time.
This was it was so great. This movie was excellent, and like you said, it accomplished everything it set out to, and was so thoroughly disturbing. I don't think I'll ever watch it again.
Yeah,
4 out of 5 stars.
I gave this one a 4 out of 5 as well, and mostly because it does get a little long in the tooth.
It does,
and it honestly, we went to a 9 p.m. showing of it, so pretty much anything at that point feels a little long in the tooth. But I really enjoyed it. I really thought it was awesome. Lily Rose Depp is excellent in this movie. Nicholas Hoult is good in this movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson is present in this movie and is having
he was better than I thought.
He's having a lot of fun.
But
for the guy that just did Kraven the Hunter,
that's exactly what I was about to say.
I kind of have a love-hate relationship with him because I think he is potentially the best part of Bullet Train, but in the same token is Kraven the Hunter, and just like really tries to get his foot in the door for some money stuff, and
he's doing like 28 years later, next year, and I'll
be interested to see him in that. I think he could play that better than
that's my thing. Like I think that he's just
Nosferatu.
kind of made to do like mid-level action movies and kind of be the bright spot.
He's got like that comic charm to him all the time. Like even at his non-funny lines in this movies, I was just kind of chuckling at him because he's just got that mannerism. There are some scenes that he has to play it a little harder, and I think he successfully does. Towards the spoiler alert end of his character in the movie, I think he plays pretty well. Overall, though, this is really awesome stuff. And I forgot to mention Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is an absolute joy in this movie. He's so good in this movie. He
has some very comedic moments.
Yeah.
Which is like out of place for this movie almost.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. It was
for
weird.
The nature.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's also like we went at
a
pretty full showing, and I think it was a lot of people just trying to find a moment of
reprieve.
Like tension relief. Like
no, I definitely like the comic power of his role in this is like omnipresent. He is very clearly like having a lot of fun with this because he knows it's a character that he can afford to have a lot of fun.
This is also his 3rd film with Eggers, isn't it?
Yeah.
He did the Northman,
the Lighthouse,
and the
Northman, in this. So I mean,
that's
current
3 out of 4.
Eggers collaborator. I hope to see him in his next project because those two work like butter.
In some interview I saw Eggers and Dafoe doing together. Eggers mentioned that he had recently offered Dafoe another role, and then Willem corrects him, or maybe Eggers says this, and he goes, well, no, it's actually 2 roles in 1, or something like that. And I'm like, a lot of the speculation is that it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And like, how cool would that be? Oh my gosh. Anyways, I hope that happens.
Oh, that would be so awesome. What is this I see before? I can totally get down on that.
That would be such a good role for
him. I think it'd be a good fit for Eggers. Just 100%. In his repertoire.
He loves doing that, like you said, those period pieces.
Yeah,
but like in the most twisted way.
I'm all here for it. But yeah, for those of you who don't know the total story of Nosferatu, basically this is about a real estate agent and his wife. The real estate agent is tasked by his boss with selling this old decrepit castle to this count that lives in another country. He has to go travel to the count. He meets the count. The count's a dead guy.
Which, this is something that kind of cracked me up a little bit about the movie, is Nicholas Hoult is traveling to Transylvania from, I think, Germany. And, listen, he just, like, rides his horse, like, 90% of the way. And then he ends up walking the rest of the way. And I don't know. They didn't really, like, put a label on how much time had passed, but it seemed like not enough, like,
It felt very The Green Knight to me, in the form that just, like, during the travel sequences of The Green Knight, it is very hard to tell, like, the amount of time that's passed.
Yeah, it just seemed, like, very, very quick.
Yeah. It just had to move at that clipping pace. Because I think
for sure. But, like, I mean, later on in the movie, like, it kind of shows the passage of time by, like, showing him with a beard. And I'd wish that they like showed him like
Yeah,
a little bit of stubble or something.
Like mention it in the beginning that it'll be a 6-month trip, and then that's it.
Did they really say that?
Yeah.
Oh my
His
gosh.
boss says that to him. Yeah, there's he meets some townspeople on the way right before he gets to the castle, and they're all like Eastern
Romanian
Orthodox,
village.
Romanian, and they're all like, please don't go in there. And he goes in there. So basically, Nosferatu has a connection with his wife from previous times, and slowly but surely
twisted
makes his
connection.
way over to his new castle domain, reconnects with the wife, and ends up being his demise. That's a very like bare bones version of it, but he bears some bones in this movie, I can tell you that much.
Oh no.
Really, really beautiful shot at the end there, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. I really had a good time with this movie. I thought it was really great.
I did not. Like I said, I think the movie was very well done, but I think that Eggers did such a good job making it absolutely disturbing and disgusting, and I was so uncomfortable.
I thoroughly agree.
I will never watch it again.
I think this will definitely be one of the most talked about movies from this year, going in years forward, and it'll probably remain in some kind of cult status. I don't think it is necessarily like it is nowhere near as influential or as powerful as the original, but it still has a lot of good aspects to it, and I think it's a very, very, very good entry into Eggers' now 4 films. I'm excited to see what he's working on next.
The scene where, oh my gosh, Lily Rose Depp is so good in this whole movie, but one of my favorite moments was in the scene. Well, one of my favorite moments when she's not doing something freaky was when Nicholas Hoult gives her the flowers, and she's like, well, I can't remember exactly what she says, but she's basically like, why did you kill these beautiful flowers? She gets so mad at him.
So torqued.
I don't know. I loved it.
I thought the whole movie was just great in tone. The dialogue was pretty damn good overall. Yeah, that's Nosferatu. If you guys have not checked this one out already, I think it's worth seeing in theaters. I've actually had some people that I did not expect to go see this movie went and saw this movie. Dakota went and saw this movie. The same night we were at A Complete Unknown. He was right across the theater from us.
That's funny.
But he texted me and he was like, "Hey, so is this a scary movie?" Or I was like, yeah, it's a 7 or 8 out of 10 in scary, but it's just a weird, horny horror movie. And he was like, "Oh, okay." And he got out of the movie and texted me and he was like, "Dude, what?" It's like, what just happened? Yeah, we talked about it a bit this morning. It was pretty awesome. But Nosferatu, go check it out. I think this one is definitely worth seeing. It's a great theater experience. The sound design is perfect for a movie theater.
100%.
Worth seeing on something other than just your TV speakers or soundbar. Anyway, let's move on to our number 2 item. Now, I think you have a third one, do you not?
Yeah.
Do
you want me to talk about it real fast?
Go for it.
Okay, I very, very briefly, like almost just a side note, Sonic 3.
What'd you think?
3 out of 5 stars. It has some very entertaining moments.
I saw the Akira slide that Shadow does up the building.
And it was within the first 2 seconds of Shadow getting on the motorcycle in Tokyo, which also, why does the fastest being on the planet need a motorcycle? That I was like, where's the Akira reference? And then it happened, and I was like, thank God they did it.
Gotta do the Akira slide.
Jim Carrey has some very funny lines. Somebody at some point makes a joke about women that's funny, and that was my favorite part of the movie, honestly.
I saw the Dr. Robotnik face in the coffee.
Yeah.
I saw that whole sequence with like him and his assistant, I guess. Yeah. It looks like
Jim Carrey plays 2 different
fun
characters in this movie and like references it almost immediately within the seconds of them meeting. Great, good stuff. There's a very fun fight sequence. There's a fun sequence set to a version of 99 Luftballons.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good poll.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. I can recommend, like, take your kids to the theater to see this movie. It's so much better than Moana 2. Yeah.
Cool. I'll take that as a win.
If I have not seen the second Sonic movie. I saw the first one and loved it, but I don't know. It's fairly predictable. It's definitely a kids movie, but I enjoyed it.
Hey, you know what? The Sonic the Hedgehog IP has been through some some rough
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
Not so much with the with just the general adaptations of it as the fans of it. It's a really interesting thing. It's not something I regard fondly, but I don't have that relationship to it at all.
It felt very, very like late 2000s, early 2010s, like
little LinkedIn,
a lot of
or
fart
LinkedIn,
jokes,
a little Linkin Park. God bless, I'm all over the place today.
like fart jokes, that kind of like that stupid humor. Oh, at some point Jim Carrey does say chat.
Oh my god!
I don't think he says locked in, but he's like, chat, how do we feel about this, or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh!
Oh my goodness! Congratulations to Queso for winning Best Streamer at the Game Awards. Yeah, I'm glad that you had a fun time with this. I was not anticipating that to be nearly as positive.
I mean, like I said, like it's definitely a kids movie. I was not blown away by it, but I enjoyed it.
How's Maria? Is that her name? Maria? Was Maria present in this one?
Is that the wife?
I think so. I don't know.
Not a lot of wife and James Marsden content in this one. The whole crew leaves pretty early, and then they don't return until like the third act, probably. Nice.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I'm excited for this movie's run to be over, just so I don't have to sit through any more ads.
The Sonic,
the corny little silence your phone things at the beginning of the movies. But
why do they? Can we stop doing that? Can we just?
No. As long as there are marketing budgets.
Well, because here's the thing. It's going to be the Minecraft movie soon, and I'm not ready for it.
You will have to stay strong, Warrior. We've got a tough stint through the first quarter of 2025.
We're going to have to see the Minecraft movie, aren't we?
We don't have to. I didn't see Moana 2. If I can get away with that, I can get away without seeing the Minecraft movie. I think it'll probably be maybe such a cultural dumpster fire that it will be more popular to go and see that movie than it will be to miss out on it. If that opportunity comes, I'd be hard-pressed to find an excuse to not go. But
that's what I'm worried about.
I'm really hoping that doesn't come. But we'll just take it as it comes. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Awesome. Thank you for your dedicated work and hard reporting. Let's move into a complete unknown. This is our last one of this week. What is there to say about a complete unknown that probably hasn't already been said? I think there are a few things that people are taking away from this movie. One is that it is a pretty good movie. Two is that Timothée Chalamet is probably on the hot list for Best Actor for Bob Dylan this year. Three is that the impressions in this movie that characters are doing, or that actors are doing of these characters, who are, caricatures of real people, are not necessarily pinpoint accurate, but don't really need to be. And I think that brings up an interesting point. Like, the way that Tim sings a lot of these songs is not beat for beat trying to make an absolute copy of the way that Bob sings.
But I like it that way.
But I think the way that he does it, and the way that he has spent so long training for this role has really lended itself to the way that he acts this character. And I think he is absolutely phenomenal in this movie. So much so that I would say he probably takes the cake for like the biggest actor this year, with Dune 2 at the top of the year and Wonka in the middle of it, and this. I think he's absolutely crushing it right now.
Was Wonka last December year? Of last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I really think he's just killing it. Like, for those of you that know, he was on College Game Day a couple of weeks ago. And
oh my gosh, this cracks me up. And he was the only one that predicted Ohio would win.
Yeah. He's just an absolute
and they did
book boy. He absolutely has been killing it with the press tour for Complete Unknown.
I will say I kind of might disagree with you a little bit on him being like actor of the year. While I'm not saying he wasn't one of the best and biggest actors of the year, I think when people look back on 2024 actors, it's going to be Glenn Powell.
I think there is some potential for that. I think that Twisters is... I think that Timmy has overtaken Glenn by this point. I think just as far as star power goes and as presence goes, because like Anyone But You and Twisters were both absolute smashes this year. But who's seen Glenn Powell on their Instagram Reels feed?
Yeah, but
he doesn't have a lot of content. He's not really out there as much as like I
guess,
definitely
I
saw it
guess.
around the time of the release.
that's kind of what I'm saying though. Is like a little bit from now, after some time has passed.
I don't disagree
when
with
people
that.
are reflecting. I'm not saying like at this present moment he's bigger, because I
Yeah.
completely disagree. I think there are some actors that are much bigger.
No,
but like last year, like Pedro Pascal was kind of the guy.
Certainly,
and
across. I mean, he did. What did he do? The Last of Us. He had a season of The Mandalorian that came out.
that Nick Cage movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive
yeah.
Talent.
I think that was 22 actually.
Really?
But still, I mean, it
Well,
was
the memes were happening last year.
Yeah. Overall, I'm really just I think Timothy is sensational in this. I think it's like he
really
does
good.
not need a
So
star
is Elle
making
Fanning
performance.
though. I really liked her in this too.
Yeah. He does not need a star making performance at this point in his career, but this is it. I really think he's quite sensational in this, and there's been a lot of discourse surrounding like the timeline of events that happens in this and stuff. Like there's a point in the movie where Bob Dylan debuts "The Times Are a Changin'" at the Newport Folk Festival in '64. That his Free Will and Bob Dylan album was already out, and that song did not debut at that festival. Like little things like that, and I think it falls a little bit too deeply into the James Mangold. Like we're witnessing greatness here stuff.
Very much so. It's like there's a lot of moments where it's like, oh my gosh, he's rediscovering folk music. Wow.
It's kind of meant like
when he was really
mental
just
masturbation for people that are just obsessed with Dylan. And most of the people that are obsessed with Dylan are smart enough to recognize when they're being catered to like that and have an adverse reaction to it. Overall, I thought this movie was fantastic. This is another 4-star movie for me. I think Timmy's
that's actually
performance.
what I rated it too.
I think Timmy's performance alone kind of warrants 5 stars for that. Because he's just so damn good in this movie. But
the cigarette budget must have been wild.
So many cigarettes.
This movie made me want a cigarette. I was like, dang.
I was like,
they be chain smoking like that.
Let me get a couple of Miller High Lifes and a cigarette.
I think it was
actually Miller High Lifes and 10 cigarettes, please.
Kind of same deal as Nosferatu. We went to a 9:00 showing of this, and I just need to stop doing that because I definitely maybe slept through
better.
A little bit. I was struggling to keep my eyes open.
Yeah, I honestly like this scratched the Almost Famous kind of itch for me, where I was kind of riveted from most of it. It was
again, like 20 minutes too long.
Yeah, there are some long in the tooth moments. Like I said, where he's doing like we're witnessing greatness, and we're focusing on this person witnessing Bob Dylan's greatness, and then we're focusing on this person witnessing the making of greatness, and it's
now he's switching genres, and oh my gosh,
it's a little bit too potent on that kind of stuff. But overall, I think it flows pretty well. I think there were some glossing over like a couple of things I would have liked to see. But there are some really like standout moments over this. So overall, this is directed by James Mangold. I mentioned his name earlier, but just for the sake of explaining to you who he is.
He did Walk the Line, right?
He did Walk the Line. He did Logan.
Oh my gosh, that's a wild one.
He has done so many. Hold on. 3:10 to Yuma. Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh.
And Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Yeah. So he did not have. I mean, depends on who you ask, but last year was not a great year for James Mangold. This movie is like a complete flipping on the head of something like that, and it not in the way where it's just like justifying its own existence by being a memorial for somebody that we hold in high regard. I think it overcomes that to some capacity and just becomes like a snapshot of Bob's life, more than like an unmeasured attempt to dissect one of the most mysterious men of the 20th century. But I genuinely do not think it missed the mark on that. I think ultimately this movie was not trying to be more than it was, and it successfully was that. So I enjoyed the soundtrack thoroughly. My favorite performances in the movie were "It Ain't Me, Babe" with Bob Dylan and Joan Baez, and "The Times They Are Changing." It's just fantastic. That's one of my favorite Bob songs. It's actually the first Bob Dylan song I ever heard. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. You said Elle Fanning. I didn't mention Elle Fanning, but she's really, really, really good in this. Yeah, I had a pretty good time with this one overall. I definitely enjoyed it. If you guys know anything or like anything about Bob Dylan, you're probably gonna have a good time with this. And I would recommend watching this, then watching Inside Llewyn Davis, and then maybe the 2004 Martin Scorsese doc. Those three are like the pinnacle. Inside Llewyn Davis is also not a movie about Bob Dylan, but it is totally a movie about Bob Dylan. So don't go into it just expecting that it's Bob propaganda. If you want Bob propaganda, just listen to the bootleg tapes. Anyway, I was really thrilled about A Complete Unknown. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about it?
Not really.
Cool. Well, congratulations to Timmy and the team. You guys made a good movie that is probably going to fail at the box office.
Yeah, we were also notably the only people in the theater.
Yeah, and a 9 p.m. showing on a Saturday night is not
fair enough.
Like particularly bad for that, but it is what it is. Okay, let's move on to our final segment of this show.
Okay.
We're going to do our top 5 movies this year. So we saw a lot of stuff. We've been consistently going to the theater. Well, I've been consistently going to the theater for every new release I can get my hands on since about April of last year. I think it kicked off with
We've missed some, but
Beyond the Spider-Verse,
hit
and
all the notable ones.
Right after Oppenheimer and Barbie, I was like, all right, it's gung-ho, all guns blazing. So last year, I caught like premiere of The Holdovers. I caught the American premiere of Anatomy of a Fall. Like so many things like that. And so this year had a like very heavy-handed, hard attempt to go against how great things were last year. I think that this year overall was a pretty decent year in movie watching. I think it cannot touch last year. I think last year was just absolutely out of this world. I mean, there are movies that I will be watching for the next 30 years from last year and will continue to be talked about. This year there are a few of them. There's a few that are totally worth the shot, but the top 5 was easy to come up with. I ruminated on it a little bit. I don't really often get to go out to festivals or anything like that and really experience some of the more quiet buzz movies. And there's still a few on the list that I haven't gotten to see. I haven't gotten to see The Brutalist, and Baby Girl is something I'm not particularly interested in, but I didn't get to see that. And there's a couple, there's just Luca Guadagnino's Queer is in theaters in a couple of places now, and I still haven't seen that. So there are always things to be on the lookout for, but just of the things that I saw this year, I think I listed right over 50 movies in the theaters this year.
Dang.
And that number might be a little bit lower, but I'm happy with that number. I spent a lot of weekends double featuring stuff over the weekend. I've spent, the Knoxville Film Festival where we were watching stuff for a total of like 15 hours over the weekend.
That was wild.
Also, just one of the best times that I had this year. Certainly something that I would just put in my recap of this year is that was an absolute blast, and we'll be doing it again. And going to the theater is like nothing else. It's really unlike just sitting on your couch and watching something.
I love the movie theater.
It's really amazing. So I encourage people that don't typically go to the movie theater, if you see something that interests you, or we talk about something that you're like, oh, maybe, go check it out and see if it's in your local theater. Because usually, some 16-year-old kid behind the stand is going to scan your ticket and call it a day. But sometimes you'll run into somebody that you never thought you would get the opportunity to meet, and you'll sit down, you'll watch a movie together, and you'll get to go out and have a discussion about it afterwards. And that is just wonderful. And, there are so many experiences that you can have in a movie theater, which is one of my favorite things about the medium, is the variety of it. And I'm just so glad that we've gotten to see all this stuff this year. So let's kick this off. I'm going to start off with...
Before we start, I want a little disclaimer. I went with my favorite movies of the year. These are not
my favorites,
not critically the best. Also, Zach and I went over our lists before the pod, and there was a little bit of overlay, so I have adjusted, but I put what overlay there was in my honorable mentions.
Good call. Yeah, so. I did have I only put down one honorable mention right before we were recording. I will probably be able to think of a million others.
I have a few.
Okay, so I will start with my number 5.
Okay.
Number 5 is a festival movie at the Knoxville Film Festival, Angel of Light.
We've talked about it a lot.
We've talked about this movie a lot. I've watched this movie 3 times now. I saw it at the festival, saw it twice when it was on streaming for the Another Hole in the Head Knoxville, or Another Hole in the Head San Francisco Festival. This movie rocks. I've loved it every time I watch it.
It's a banger.
It is a certified banger. I'm very fond of this movie. Crew Smith, congratulations, you made the list. Okay, that's my number 5. If you have the opportunity to see this movie, I don't think it's still streaming.
I think it's done now.
So I will be keeping an eye out, and I will let you know when it will be available and where it will be available. Okay, what's your number 5, Emmy?
Number 5, I've got Wicked. I had a wicked good time with this movie. I had fun with it. I really enjoyed it. I do be playing the soundtrack. I mean,
there were a couple of days there where Defying Gravity was in my rotation.
I did not want to like this movie. I wanted to hate Ariana Grande, but it intoxicated me. I really liked it a whole lot. I love how all my friends like it, and it's a phenomenon. Everyone loves it. I loved it.
Phenomenon.
It's Chapel Roan probably loves
to say
Wicked.
In one word.
Yeah, I liked Wicked.
Wicked, I had a really, really good time with
I had to
Wicked
throw it
when
on
I
a
saw
list.
it. I was surprised by how much I liked it.
Took 2 of my movies from me. I had to fill in.
Yeah, well, nature of the beast. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's cutthroat on the From Cameras to Couches couch here. Okay, Wicked, good entry. I think that is definitely going to be one of the most talked about movies from this year.
I think so too.
Number 4 for me, The Substance. Whoa, mama. I've seen this movie 3 times now.
I love this movie. You've seen it 3 times?
Yeah, I've watched it on movie twice now. It's fantastic. The first time Emily and I saw this in the theaters, I walked out like, whoa, man, that was
this
way
movie,
too good.
Unlike Nosferatu, was something disgusting in a very delightful way. I was like, ew.
Very,
like, I kind of was giggling. Like,
ode to body horror, a lot of like Kubrickian style. It is so awesome.
Oh my gosh,
Demi Moore and
Margaret
Qualley. Thank you. I those are on my hot list for like best actress this year. They are out of this world in this movie. I really like there's a lot of weird reasons for me, a single 25-year-old guy, to be putting The Substance on my list as one of my favorite movies. I urge you to just watch this movie and convince me that I'm wrong.
It's so good.
It's
a wild ride fantastic. In the absolute best way. And it's like pretty coherent too. Like for how jump around.
Yeah, it definitely. I totally see what you're saying.
It flows very well.
Masterful editing job. That it looks fantastic.
I was gonna say it's so, and it is just.
It is something that so well executes on the idea of what it wants to be, and so clearly has the perfect image of it that you can't say in any way, shape, or form that it fails in any modicum. I mean, it is just that good.
Also, like, I'm a massively squeamish person, and there was not a lot of this movie that I had to look away from because it's so.
I would not encourage people that are squeamish to take that.
No, I'm not saying that.
I'll be okay.
I'm not saying that. But, like, I handled a lot of it. Like, I don't think I ever looked away. And I'd be looking away.
There's a lot of, like, backs splitting open.
There's a lot of needles.
I mean, ultimately, it does kind of devolve into a body horror movie. So.
Oh, it's very much a body horror movie.
So, if you guys are uncomfortable with your body not looking the way that it should, do not watch this movie. Because there are so many, like, old people parts and just nasty general. Oh my gosh, it's a lot. But this movie is wonderful. I absolutely had a joy with it. It is about so many things, and it subversively like tells you every single one of them. And you walk out of the theater and you're just like, well, I got some thinking to do. I really love this one. That is definitely on my hot list. So number 4, The Substance.
Okay, my number 4 is We Live in Time. We Live in Time.
Andrew Garfield.
Oh my gosh. I cried like 12 times during this movie. But it wasn't until the end. Like, I did a really good job holding it together. Um, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's funny. It's charming. It's heartwarming. It's heartbreaking. It's every little thing that you want in your girly movie. The Fault in Our Stars, girls, where you at? Because this is what we're talking about right here. Also, like, just really good storytelling, really good use of, like, symbolism with, like, the clocks and the timers and, oh my gosh, the shot of her on the ice skating rink that is very reminiscent of Iron Claw. Yes. Oh my gosh. When she shaves her head, that whole scene with the fam bam just tore me apart.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hearing, those are both pinpoints that I've heard from a lot of people, or those two particular sequences. Yeah, We Live in Time. I still have not seen this one. I'll get around to it eventually when I'm, sad enough.
I mean, I'm not, like, I can't say, like, it's no past lives or anything like that, but it's good. It's a good movie. It's on my top 5.
What was your airport double feature, Past Lives and
Grave of the Fireflies?
Yeah.
I'm wild for that one.
Yeah.
That'll
keep
I don't know
spending
what possessed me
silence.
to do that. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but miserable take.
Emotion.
And then I finished Past Lives, and Zach and I are getting a beer before we get on the plane because we got to the airport like super, super early. And he was just like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "I just watched Past Lives." And he's like, "Oh. Man." And then we're on the plane, and I'm watching Grave of the Fireflies. And
by the way, when I'm on a plane, I'm either watching a movie or sleeping, and it is often like 15 minutes of each at a time.
And he looks over at my phone. He's like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Grave of the Fireflies." And he's like, "What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Why would you do that to yourself when we're going on vacation?
Maybe I just wanted to go into the depths of despair before I experienced the highest joys when I got to see my sweet friends.
Ketamine and go to a funeral.
Just it's like
a
it's like
kneecap.
when you go between like an ice bath and a sauna.
I honestly think that is just it's
just
like going between an
shocking the
ice
system.
bath and the North Pole. There's no retribution to that.
Just shocking the system. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Anora. This is probably gonna win Best Picture this year. That's the end of my conversation. Psych. It is hotly contested with The Brutalist for this year. I really had fun with Anora. I really. The second third of this movie hits so hard. It's unbelievable. Like
I love this movie so much I could throw up.
I was not married to it in the first third. I really was like, okay, I'm seeing the gears turning. I'm seeing everything kind of go to
Mikey
work
Madison
here.
in my mind.
And then that second third develops into like one of those longest night things, like After Hours or something like that. That you're just like, I want this to last forever. And then the final third of the movie happens, and you're like, I see why I can't have things that last forever, and none of us can.
I don't want it to last forever.
I want to get off this train at the next stop. And the conclusion of this movie is it had me yelling expletives in the theater. I was genuinely like, we were one of like 2 groups that were in this movie theater, and everybody was kind of on the same vein where it just ended, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That is some of the best shit I've ever seen.
I went to see this movie again within the week, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I love Nora.
Really, really, really good stuff. So that's my number 3 this year.
I'll go ahead and mention it's my number 2.
Yeah. Good call.
So
what was your number 3?
My number 3 is another movie I went to see twice in the movie theaters. I gave this movie 5 stars on Letterboxd the first time I saw it because it scared the shit out of me. Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus. The last 20 minutes of this movie...
Last 20 minutes of this movie are
made me want to piss my pants. You guys know that one shot if you've seen it. And
solidly,
my gosh, I had to sleep at my house by myself after this.
Yeah, I was house sitting the night that we watched it.
It was so
Yeah. For
I
those
thought
of
the
you
thing was gonna come get me.
for those of you who haven't seen Alien Romulus, it's probably not been ruined, but like the suspense has kind of been killed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, social media ruins everything.
The last like 20 minutes of this movie are, horror movies. Like, oh, thank God it's over. Oh, it's not actually over. This movie does that twice, and then has the scariest version of that I've ever seen in the last part of it. The last 20 minutes of this are
also my beautiful
absolutely
Kaylee
bonkers.
Spaney.
Kaylee Spaney's awesome in this movie. I do not think she's the best actor in this movie. I think the guy that plays the android is really good.
I maybe agree, but not by far.
I think Kaylee does an excellent Scream Queen job in this.
I also just have a big old soft spot for Kaylee Spaney because she was in
the Sofia Coppola movie.
She's a Coppola girl.
Yeah, I really, really, really thought this was a great entry into the Alien franchise, which is something I'm pretty familiar with. The original Alien is one of those formative movies for me. I watched it with my dad on a weekend, on a Netflix DVD. Absolutely like blew my mind. Like it totally set the tone for the things I was interested in for the next like 5 years. And still to this day is something like I've seen every Alien entry, and I always love them. Aside from 4 and 3 to some degree, but 3 has a little bit of redeeming quality since it's directed by David Fincher. And then you get stuff like Prometheus, and Prometheus is awesome, and people will never come around to it. And then you get stuff like Alien Covenant, and Alien Covenant is all right. And then you get stuff like Alien Romulus, which is just a standalone project made by Fede Alvarez, this guy who had done a couple of horror movies before, and it's absolutely blow the doors off awesome. So much so that Ridley Scott is like, okay, well, I'll make an Alien movie again. Yeah, I really thought Alien Romulus was quite awesome.
It certainly has like some fan servicey moments and stuff like that,
but that's a pitfall of just modern movie making in general.
It belongs to I can't even think of the word right now. My brain is going away.
A big franchise.
Thank you, franchise. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you're going to get that.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some, you said it, there are some very big fan servicey moments in this that really deterred me to it. Like, I was very much like, we don't have to do all that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. At the end of the day, like, I was not there for that middle 30 minutes where that was happening. I was there for the last 20 of it where I was losing my shit.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
Good stuff. Okay, your number 2 was Anora.
Yes, sir.
So I'll do...
And I'll go ahead and tell you right now, your number 2 is my number 1, so...
My number 2 is Memoir of a Snail. This is Adam Elliott's most recent entry, his first one since Mary and Max, back in, I believe, 2010, or maybe 2009. What can't I say about Adam Elliott that I haven't already said about him? I've talked
this
him to
movie
death.
About all of his direction.
This shit works on me so well. It works on me so well, and
we
don't
embraced
know why.
in the movie theater.
I do not know why. Like I allow myself to be like, okay, I have to hold myself to a higher standard and have like some intellectual capacity in going into something like this. And then I see the movie and I'm just like, yep, I'm a wreck. This one got me. All of Elliott's movies like that, or all of Elliott's movies are like that to me. And by all of them, I mean his 2 and his other several short films.
His short films are so freaking powerful.
Harvey Crumpet is incredible.
Time.
His Oscar-winning short film is just a joy, narrated by Jeffrey Rush. You guys know that. We've talked about it. Go listen to the Adam Elliott highlights / Planes, Trains, and Automobiles episode.
Oh my gosh.
Memoir of a Snail is an absolute joy. Sarah Snook is killing it.
I love her.
She does such a good voice job in this. And like the amount of detail in this movie is agonizing. And how good it looks is like I can never in a million years imagine what kind of level you have to be operating at to be this creative. Like this is out of this universe. Elliot stuff is so good at doing that. And
as I mentioned, it's literally my number one movie of the year. Like,
Yeah.
this is his number two. It's my number one. I love this movie.
It is so perfectly glossy and just wonderful. I had such a good time with this movie, and I've watched it a couple of times since it came out in theaters. It just came to digital, so if you haven't had the opportunity to see this one in theaters, go check it out. You can probably rent it. It is worth seeing. I think it's one of the best movies of this year, undoubtedly.
Trigger warning, though, it is not kid friendly.
It is not kid friendly, and it will certainly hurt your heart in several capacities. Okay, my number one movie of the year. I'm a hood, double OD.
You're a hood.
Low life scum. That's what they say
You're
about me. My favorite movie this year is
double
Kneecap.
OD.
I love this movie like I did not think I could.
No one can make me turn their music off ever. I literally have been listening to it nonstop. I've seen the movie 3 times in the past week.
Yeah, I think I've seen it 5 since the first time I watched it.
Oh my gosh!
This movie
I'm
is
a hitch, double OD.
absolutely rip roaring. It is so up my alley. It's not even funny. When I started this movie for the first time, we were landing on our flight from Knoxville to Seattle, or from Nashville to Seattle, and I had just finished watching Casablanca, and I took a nap, and I woke up, and they were like, we're preparing to land the plane. I was like, okay, well, I still got a little bit of time to kill. I'm going to throw on Kneecap, because I downloaded that, and I started it, and the first 5 minutes of this movie made me pause the movie, because I was like, I do not have time to get this hyped up right now. It is so electric right off the bat. Like, the way it carries itself through the Irish experience and like brings you along with it, and also completely flips the music biopic idea on its head in like a totally different form than it is typically done.
Like,
and
as
is
good
also
as
a debut feature from the people that are involved with it is insane. This movie accomplishes so much in its like hour and 45 that it runs.
like, as good as An Incomplete Unknown was, it can absolutely suck my toes, because like Kneecap rips.
I was trying to think of other music biopics from this year, and we've got A Complete Unknown, we've got Kneecap, we've got Amy, the Amy Winehouse movie, which blew, and we've got Bob Marley One Love, which I've heard from Bob Marley fans is better than a lot of people.
I think Amy was the previous Amy Winehouse biopic. I think it's Back in Black.
No, you're right. It's Back in Black. Amy is the actual documentary biopic.
Yes.
So all of that to say, when you've got Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, and Amy Winehouse as the 3 biopics of the year, and this Irish rap group that raps entirely in Gaelic is the best one that you put out, that is a statement. And this movie is so original and so well carries itself through. I could not help but have a smile my entire viewing. Like the entire first time I watched this movie, I turned it up on the speakers and just let it play through.
It's wild. It
is such a good time. It is a lot of vile stuff. There's a ton of drug usage in this movie. It is very much like dealing with hoodlums and modern day issues in Ireland with the Language Act and things like that. But it is incredible, and it carries itself so fantastically. So I highly recommend watching this movie and then challenging yourself to not listen to the rest of their music afterwards. And here's what I'll say. These guys are better filmmakers than they are rappers. And that's saying a lot, because they've never made a movie before. And going back and like watching their music videos and stuff is awesome, because you just start to see like the little bits of inspiration from where they get like these musical montage moments in the movie that are just wonderful. Like there are some all-time drug sequences in this movie, and that is saying a lot, because there are some all-time drug sequences in movies in general that are just untouchable.
I think we mentioned that on our but our last roundup.
It is absolutely incredible. I think this movie is just an absolute joy. This is my favorite movie that I've seen this year. That may change, time is relative, and this is a fairly recent movie in my repertoire. So it might be recency bias in some capacity, but I really, 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 really like this movie. So that's why I've put it at number 1 on my top 5 movies of 2024.
Okay, I have some honorable
Let's
mentions.
talk about some honorable mentions.
I just want to bang out a couple real quick because you had them on your top 5. I had 2 out of 3 of these on my top 5, but The Substance, Kneecap, and Angel of Light.
Those are all good.
Just throwing those out there because we've already talked about them.
I wanted to throw Rebel Ridge on the list.
Okay.
Very, very good thriller, Netflix thriller from earlier this year. I was surprised by how much it was able to get done. I had a really, really good time with it the first time I watched it. So much so that I watched it one night and then was like, Emily, you'll like this, and we watched it the next night. I typically do that with a lot of stuff, by the way. So, I really enjoyed Rebel Ridge. I wanted to mention Dune Part 2.
I have that on my list, too.
Because at the top of the year, like, I remember Emily and I walking out of the IMAX theater in Knoxville and being like, we just saw the Two Towers. That movie's incredible. I cannot wait for Dune Messiah, but we will be waiting a long time for Dune Messiah. That's okay. If Denis Villeneuve is going to make that Annie Jacobson nuclear war scenario movie, then I'm 100% in.
I have Twisters on here.
Twisters is
I think that this was a really fun movie. I think that it was the movie of the summer, arguably. I think no one could shut up about it, with good reason. It was super fun. Glenn Powell, I love you. Daisy Edgar Jones, I love you more. Please marry Paul Mescal and make us all happy.
Yeah.
That's all I ask of you. Twisters. Good.
Twisters is
good stuff. Anthony Ramos, I still hate you.
Still Broadway boy. I want to mention The Fall Guy. Fall Guy was really fun at the top of this year. While we're in the vein of like comedic, well, I guess not really.
It was a pretty big flop, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a royal flop, which is a real shame because they put a lot of work into that movie.
And
I thought it was great.
Good. It was a great movie. It was like one of the most rom-com-y movies to come out in a long time.
Yeah, I think the extended cut of it on Peacock has been pretty popular.
Well, good, because like I think it's something like it's enjoyable for it. Like it's a good date night movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boys will like it. The girls will like it. It's got Ryan Gosling. You can't be mad.
Very fun. You got Ryan Gosling talking about how many carbs you're eating, and Aaron Taylor Johnson is also in this movie.
Oh yeah, so he is.
Longlegs, I wanted to just mention. The further away that we get from this movie, the more it seems like people didn't actually like it. But I had a really good time with it the first time I watched it.
I was scared.
Yeah. Funny story, Bob, if you're listening, I'm going to put you on the torch right now. I have a buddy who doesn't really like watching scary movies, and this movie reminded me a lot of a video game called Alan Wake 2. For those of you that have played Alan Wake 2, or at least the opening hours of Alan Wake 2, like I have, and then put it down, it feels very, very akin to this movie. Just the style of it, to the like stark background of a cold, damp, humidified Pacific Northwest in the winter or in the fall, accented by like the yellow of an FBI jacket. All of those things like had me thinking about it the whole way through. So I recommended this movie to my friend, and my friend goes and sees it, and I'm like waiting in anticipation to text him. I'm like, so what do you think? What do you think? And he doesn't really respond. He's like, it was there. He was like, wasn't my thing. I was like, okay. And so a couple of hours later, we're discussing it, and I was like, I didn't realize you don't like horror movies. And he was like, yeah, that was absolutely garbage. I could not stand it. Anyway, I'm sorry, Bob. That's something, probably my most ruminated thing of this year, is that I might have torched my entire relationship of movie recommendations off of making somebody go see a horror movie. Anyway, Longlegs was good but not great. The more I reflect on it, the more I'm like, yeah, it was fun. Probably not something that I'm going to like revisit a bunch in the future. But I did see it twice in theaters, and I think that is enough for me.
Okay, so, how many more honorable mentions do you have?
2.
Oh, perfect. Me too. I'll go next. Challengers. I did not see this movie in theaters. I saw it at my sweet friend Judanice's house, and I really liked it. I have never seen a Luca Guadagnino movie before, but I don't think I'll ever see one again. But Challengers was fun. I love Mike Feist.
I've seen a couple Luca Guadagnino movies at this point, and he is like just not up my alley, which is okay. And
he's a very provocative filmmaker.
The more I spend time with his movies, the more I'm like, okay, well, it's Luca. What did I expect? But he's really great. Do not get me wrong. I think he's a great filmmaker.
Yeah, I liked
he's
Challengers.
Challengers.
I like some of the
I still have
Gaga
not
songs.
seen. I have heard almost the entire soundtrack. Produced by Atticus Ross and
Soundtrack
Ross
goes hard.
and Trent
Cinematography
Reznor.
goes hard.
Those two cats are the same guys that did the Social Network soundtrack, which is absolute masterpiece. And they also recently have been attached to the project for the next Tron movie,
That's right. I couldn't
which is going to be
remember
very
what it
exciting.
was.
And even more recently, have been attached to the next Naughty Dog game, the makers of The Last of Us and Uncharted. They're going to be completely scoring their new game called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, which I'm very, very excited for, and a lot of people are saying is going to be a corporatized nightmare. But I trust in Naughty Dog. But this is not a video game podcast. My last two, I wanted to mention The Wild Robot.
This is a good movie.
The Wild Robot. This Memoir of a Snail kicked this off the list for me this year as best animated picture.
100%.
But I really
It's still a
really
great
like this
movie,
movie. The more I revisited it, the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, you know what, this does pretty well. The first time I watched it, I was a little underwhelmed.
A lot of people liked Flow better. I liked this better.
Yeah, I
can't lie.
think the narrativization behind Flow is better than it is for The Wild Robot.
I agree, but I
Solo guy from Latvia makes this feature length movie versus one of Sony's biggest animation studios making this movie. And
I'm a huge proprietor of like motherly storylines,
Yeah.
and that was Wild Robot is certainly that, and I liked it. Yeah. It pulled my heartstrings. Flow did too, but this did more.
it definitely did. Okay. The last movie that I wanted to mention that we saw in the theaters this year, a little unconventional, was Boogie Nights.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
We saw Boogie Nights in the theater in July. No, it was later than that. It was August or September.
I think it was September then.
Yeah, there's a theater over in Nashville called the Belcourt Theater. It is basically like a student film or a film student's love letter in a building. It has all of the stuff that you can't find anywhere else going on. They frequently have just like some of the best schedules.
They had Timothy Chalamet and Nicole Kidman within the past month.
Yeah, they had Tim Chalamet come in for A Complete Unknown and Baby
her,
Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they came and like introduced the movies and did Q&A and like all this stuff. And
oh my gosh,
it is so cool. So
are you kidding me?
If you haven't been to the Belcourt Theater in Nashville and it's immediately accessible to you, go to the Belcourt. It is fantastic. And also, like, I want to give a quick shout out to Central Cinema up in Knoxville, which we just went to, or that me, Dad, and Danny just went to this weekend for Die Hard on Christmas.
You guys, yeah.
Die Hard was absolutely wonderful at this theater. I really will be going back there a bunch. It's a very, very, very cool spot. But we went and saw Boogie Nights at the Belcourt in Nashville, and boy oh boy, this movie is just the best. I cannot tell you how much I love Paul Thomas Anderson, and this
was just like one of my favorite
movie,
theater experiences of the year.
Like plays me like a fiddle. I love this movie so much.
We hadn't seen this movie until this year, and I promise I've seen it like 10 times.
I would not. I would probably be remiss if I said I had seen it less than 15 at this point.
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times, and it just, like, the soundtrack just echoes through my house.
Yeah, I think that a majority of the soundtrack was on like my Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah,
like if they still did the top album thing, I know that Boogie Nights would be up there, competing, fighting
Tooth
in
and
a
nail.
locked-in battle with "Awaken My Love" by Childish Gambino.
Two absolutely beautiful creations. Yeah, Boogie Nights.
Okay,
we will do a weekly highlight on this at some point. I don't want to talk about it too much lest we deter people, but that was probably one of my favorite theater experiences.
I have
year.
one more honorable mention.
Hit it.
This was another one that we saw at the Knoxville Film Festival that I just really, really loved. All That We Love. We all love it. All That We Love.
We love our dogs.
It's a beautiful story about a divorced woman and her...
A bunch of people dealing with loss and grief.
Recent loss of her dog, and her troubled relationship with her daughter, and her friend who has lost his husband of 25 years, and just funny and gut-wrenching and such a good movie. Such a good movie.
I don't think I can mention, or I don't think I can have that mentioned in the same stroke without mentioning Bob Trevino Likes It either, because
for sure.
Those are both movies that we saw at the festival. Both of them very similar in tone.
Yes.
And both are just wonderful. I really think those movies are awesome. All That We Love is really, really good stuff. I think I like Bob Trevino Likes It a little more.
Honestly, I think I do too, and I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't have that on my list as well. I must have glazed over it when I was looking through my Letterboxd and compiling my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So, honorable mention, again, Bob Trevino Likes It. Thank you for calling that to my attention, because
awesome.
I would have been mad if I let that one slide.
Yeah, they're
but
just fantastic.
Also, All That We Love is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All That We Love. And you know what
All That We Love, Bob
is?
Trevino Likes It.
All That We Love are movies. That's all that we love.
All That We Love are movies.
So we
love more than that.
Yeah, but movies are a highlight that we love so much that we can talk about it for 1 hour and 10 minutes without blinking an eye. So, people, that is those are our top 5 movies.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us throughout the holiday craziness and the bout of illness.
We are definitely planning on being more consistent going into the next year. I've got a lot of plans for next year for where I want to take the show, so stay tuned. We'll have a lot of ideas. I eventually want to branch out too. I want to do multimedia stuff if we can. So if you guys have not just movies that you want to talk about, if you want to talk about
shows,
games, you want to talk about TVs,
music,
book, sports, book, just one book. You just have to pick a book.
You can pick one book.
It's a book club. Sports, anything.
I'm not gonna say that. Never mind.
If you guys have anything that you want to talk about, bring it on, and I am more than happy to support you guys in your ventures, because this is at the end of the day, we are just two self-educated film nerds we just like hanging out. We just like hanging out and talking about movies with different people, and
we're just having a good
unfortunately, those different people often happen to be just the two of us. So we open up the conversation.
Just the two of us.
We like the reciprocation of the conversation, though. I love when you guys send us DMs and you're like, oh, hey, well, I thought this thing about this, or I went and saw this weekend, or would you like to go see this? That stuff,
I love it.
Say the word. I'm always there for it. So regardless, I want to thank you guys for sticking with us through, we started this back in October, and it's been 3 months now since we've kicked this off, and I think we're on the right track, and I'm very excited to see where the future of this is going to go. So bear with us for the next year. Stay tuned for the big plans we've got for 2025.
Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to all of you. There are big things coming in 2025. No matter what, you just keep on your grind set. You keep that Sigma grind set going, and advance your life in all the right ways in 2025. And we will continue to do the same, so that as we grow, you can grow alongside us. And,
yeah, get that bread.
And hopefully, I won't be sitting in here looking at Christmas ornaments for the rest of my life.
But find somewhere to put them.
In the meantime, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for listening in all this year, and especially to this episode as we round up the last of the year. And look forward to seeing you in the new year. So here's to 2025, and we'll see you on the other side.